Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm so glad you can join. Welcome to this webinar. Now, I am just going to start off with a quick tech check to make you're all there. Make sure you're all there and coming through. Yep, I can see you. Welcome if you are here on LinkedIn. And if you are here on Riverside, it is really, really good to have you here. So, this webinar, you signed up because you want to know more about the intensive, the Education Leaders Intensive. So that's what we're going to get to. We're not going to kind of faff around with too much, but just in case you don't know, let me give you a quick introduction to myself first, I guess. So for those totally new to these sessions, my name's Shane Leaning. Many of you have met me before. There's a few places where you might have come across me online. One is my podcast, super proud of Education Leaders Podcast. This is a podcast for school leaders across the world. It's actually in the top 5% of podcasts in the world of any category. Really, really proud of that. Leadership tips and great conversations every week. Check out that wherever you get your podcast. I'm also really proud to be the co-author of Change Starts Here. Organizational change and leadership is something I'm super passionate about, and this is all coming to life in this book. You can find it on Amazon now. It's released this summer and available on pre-order. But what I do most is I work with leaders across the world as an organizational coach, helping school leaders with strategy and leading their schools with confidence. I'm based in Shanghai in China, so it's currently 5 p.m. here, but I work with schools right across Asia and across into Europe as well. And I also host another podcast with a great chap in New York over in the US. That's actually later tonight. But most importantly, I've been where you are. I've been trying to lead effectively while learning on the job. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today in this session. So this has been part of a series, an ongoing series I've been running on practical leadership. I've been doing webinars every other week, usually on a Tuesday. Apologies that this one had to move back to Thursday. I wasn't very well earlier this week. It happens. So I'm feeling much better now. We do this on Thursday. If you're catching up on the recording, it's great to have you here. You can always ping in questions afterwards. But I did do 3 previous webinars. If you are up for it after this workshop, I can send you the link so you can catch up for them. We did one session on leadership qualification trap where I unpacked some qualitative research that I conducted into the leadership development space, looking at qualifications, looking at where current qualifications work and where they fall down. And that was based on people I spoke to who had done these qualifications. In the second webinar, we looked at how to lead with less stress and more impactful. What can you do to reduce that load and lead with more impact? And there we were looking at leadership levers, some of which I'm going to introduce you today. And then 2 weeks ago, we did a very practical workshop on how to lead difficult conversations with confidence. Is something that in much of my conversations with people around the world's leaders is one thing that we all feel a bit uncomfortable with. It makes our stomachs turn a little bit. So I shared some practical ideas there. You can go back and look at those sessions. But today I'm going to introduce you to a program that will help you systematically develop all of these skills. And that is our Education Leaders Intensive Leadership Program, which in a nutshell is 3 months of learning 10 levers for big results. And that starts in October 2025. And if you hang around to the end, actually, you'll get a special discount code just to the end of June for 25% off the course. So what I'm going to be doing throughout this session is I'm going to try and swing into where people are online. Maybe you're here with me on LinkedIn. I can see a few of you are joining there. Hello, welcome. Really good to have you here. I'm also going to swing into Riverside. I can see a few people have joined us live in Riverside too. If you've got any questions as we go through, post them in the chat. And at the end of this session, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A where I can answer some of those questions live for you. I've also had a few questions sent in before, so I can come to those as well. All right. So I'm interested to know, just take a moment to have a think. Have you ever been to leadership training that didn't change anything about how you led? Just have a think of a moment. Well, if you're anything like me or the many leaders who I've spoke to about their programs, the answer is yes. And so many times we might be on a program, we might be on a course, and we might go, okay, I maybe enjoyed that session or I had a good chat with someone, but did it really change my practice? One of the biggest problems with many of these trainings is cognitive overload. You're trying to remember so many different things and you just can't do it because leadership is high pressure. If we're looking at leadership development, we often find what's listed on the screen. Most leadership development is 80% theory, 20% practice. Nothing sticks if we're doing it like that because we just don't have time to embed. And if we think about when we get ourselves into a leadership scenario where we're having a moment of leadership, maybe we're having that conversation in a school with a colleague, a professional conversation, there are going to be many things happening at once. One, you might need to know, how am I going to solve this problem that's in front of me? How am I going to influence effectively? How am I going to give feedback? How do I communicate with clarity? It nearly always involves a level of delegation when we're communicating with a colleague. How am I going to delegate appropriately? And how am I going to ensure you would just feel totally overwhelmed and likely just resort to intuition. And intuition often just isn't enough to make you feel confident as a leader. It's no wonder when we look at how many things we're doing as a leader that things can feel overwhelming. But what if there was a slightly different way? What if instead of trying to remember 20 models, you had 10 skills so deeply embedded that they became automatic, which allowed you to build other skills on top? If we look at traditional PD on the left there, this is the model where you learn everything at once. This is usually where you go to a PD session, they teach you this big idea. Often we just get cognitively overloaded, nothing sticks. We're not able to apply it in practice. A different way, and the way that I work on that my intensive program is to master individual levers one by one and build confidence through those success. The idea is that if we can build little micro levers, we might be able to go into a conversation, go into a leadership scenario with a little bit less cognitive load on our minds. For example, when you've mastered giving feedback, that's one less thing in a conversation with a colleague, in a difficult conversation, that's going to be competing with your mental bandwidth. You're going to be able to focus on some other area that you want to focus on because you've got a strategy there. That's the core insight that we're trying to get through here. So in this program, we look at this individual levers approach to learn. So what exactly is a lever? Well, firstly, it is something that creates immediate impact. You can use this straight away. It's no good having a big idea or a big concept of what something leadership should look like or sound like. We need something that we can use it immediately. That's what makes a lever. Secondly, it builds on your existing strengths. What a good lever does is not try to change who you are into a different lever, into a different leader, but try to actually amplify what's good about you and amplify that superpower. So you're pulling on your own levers rather than trying to switch someone else's. Thirdly, that they can be adapted somewhat anywhere. So whether you're in Shanghai, London, Dubai, these principles should be able to work for you. There's no point in teaching too heavily on context reduced principles. There is a big place for developing those skills with people from your own context. And in my program, I give you the opportunity to build that together. But that's not best coming from a third party who's not in your context. So these levers are adaptable. Really importantly, they generate confidence because you practice it until you can't get it wrong. And this is what makes a really powerful to lever. Think about it like learning to drive. Eventually, you're not thinking about gear changes. They become automatic. And we're looking in a leadership development program at how do we look at what different places we can automate as a leader and using those as levers to reduce our cognitive load, to free us up to become the leader we want to be, and to free us up to feel that we can approach new challenges, which you're going to come across every day. No course is going to prepare you for every situation, not even this one. So these are the 10 levers that we do in the intensive program. So essentially in this program with you, we go over 10 weeks starting in October, and each week we look at another lever. Now it's nearly every week. It actually goes into mid-January. So sometimes there's a bit of a gap. But essentially, these are the 10 leaders that we want to master. We start off with the foundation. That's who you are as a leader. So one of those first levers is living your values. What values do you already hold, and how do you unleash them? And secondly, using your experience. So you've got your value set. These are important. You can't just let go of them and become another leader. You need to hold them. And then you've got your experience set. And even if you think, well, I've only been a leader for a year or two, I don't have much experience. Well, if you're in education, you've been a teacher for a long time. And I think there's so many situations that you've used in teaching that you can leverage for your leadership. So we look at those levers together. Then we move on to a series of communication for the next three levers. How do you communicate clearly every time, whether that be speaking, email? Getting your point across is one of the most fundamental skills of any leader. The fourth one there is mastering meetings. How do you deliver a meeting that just people don't roll their eyes at and go, another meeting that could have been an email, or I wish I had more clarity, or I wish I could take part more and had more voice, or what on earth was all that about? We go to so many meetings and it is such a point of contention right across work life in many sectors. If you can master meetings, my gosh, you're halfway there to really supporting your team. And fifth is giving powerful feedback. When you are presented with a moment where you have to give feedback, which as a leader is many times, how do you make sure that feedback is impactful, powerful, and it actually does something? Then we will move on to three levers on development. Firstly is on nurturing potential. This one's really close to my heart. When you've got a diverse team that are working for you, you've got two approaches. You can try to lead by brute force and try to homogenize everyone into one group, try to get everyone to follow you. Good luck with that. I've never seen that done with really good results unless they've hired for a very specific type of person. Most likely is you've got a diverse team with diverse personalities, rich experience, and it feels like a higgledy-piggledy mess. The challenge comes with how do you nurture that potential and bring out everyone's individual character while coming together in a shared vision? There's methods to do this. Then we've got delegation. How do you delegate? Here we draw a lot upon the late Tim Brighouse's work on delegation. There are clear delegation principles that you can employ that can both empower your team, but also that make communication so clear whenever you're asking someone to do something. Then we've got developing your team. How do you actually develop a team? How does professional learning even work? What makes a teacher learn and grow? How does that work? And what can you do? In this lever, we'll look at a few specific things, such as how to look and evaluate a program, but also a simple thing of how to lead a workshop. It's something you might have never been taught, but what there are things that work better than others. Let's look at that together. Then we've got implementation. So the last two levers is all about implementing. So firstly, it's about owning decisions. How do you make a decision and then own it? That doesn't mean bulldozing through, even if it seems like things are going wrong. In fact, it means the opposite. It means owning that, saying this is a decision that we've made and that I am holding as a leader, taking that responsibility, but with the humility to adapt as we go. There are ways we can practice that skill. And finally, making change stick. How do we create change that actually lasts through time? This is a lot about what my book, Change Starts Here, is about. How do we make resonant change, change that resonates through time, through our organizations, so that we're not just implementing something new every year, every 2 years, until it fizzles out and a new leader comes in and does the same thing again. So I want you to take a moment now, if you are able to, go in the chat box, or if you're on LinkedIn, pop it on the comments. I want you to have a think of those 10 levers. Which one resonates with you at the minute? Which one resonates most with your current challenges? I'd love you to just pop in the chat box wherever you are, Riverside or LinkedIn? Which number resonates with you the most? I can see, hi Rachel, welcome. It's great to have you in here on LinkedIn. Thanks for joining. I hope this is useful for you. Take a moment, just have a think. Which one resonates with you? Awesome. Thanks so much for having a little think about that. This is really, really important to get you reflecting on which levers are useful to you moving forward, or which ones you think a little bit sticky. Let me just take a step back and think about the program. Now, I've been very methodical with designing this program, that it's research backed. So as a part of this program, I mentioned at the beginning, if you go back to webinar 1, I conducted some research with many leaders across the world who've done programs to find out what works for them and what doesn't work for them. In addition, each of those leaders is supported by hundreds of studies. In fact, I've made sure that each of those levers that we're looking at in the program are levers that are research backed, at least by meta-analysis, just looking at individual studies, but looking at groups of studies that come together. So we know we've got high impact. Also, as we go through this program, you'll know if you've been to any of my workshops, I'm a big fan of the Education Endowment Foundation's principles of professional development. If you haven't seen them, give it a Google. They have a great professional development guidelines that help you to kind of make sure that your PD is research informed and has the mechanisms for success. So we've embedded those mechanisms into this principle, into this program, which is actually why it's 80% practice, 20% theory. We're going to do lots of practical. I'll show you exactly how that works in a moment. It's all focused on reducing cognitive load. So in this regard, what we're trying to do in this program is not to go, can we create a complete leader in a program? If anyone says you're going to become the leader you've always wanted to be in this program, I would be really cautious of that statement, because in my experience, I've never met a leader yet who said, I developed as a leader the most in a program. It's not going to be even my program. Most of your development comes in practice in your school. That's why in this program, first, it's mainly practical. I want you practicing things in your context, but also the aim is not to create a fully formed leader, but to be able to reduce your cognitive load so that you can grow into the leader you want to be. And we do that through a lever approach. We also look at some good research from Wharton and Harvard universities on authentic leadership, which is leadership designed on you rather than leadership designed on a version of a leader. We're looking at bringing out you in this program. So we're looking at evidence-based frameworks, but we're looking at what actually works. It's evidence-based and it's practical. So how does the program work? Well, it's going to be a 10-week program roughly, starting on October 20th, running until January, a bit of a break in between. Each week is going to have a 2-hour live session with me. So as a group, a small group, you're going to get together with me. There's the times in Shanghai, London, Dubai. They're the times that we will meet. So you need to make sure you're available for those times. That's a prerequisite. In those 2 sessions, we are going to look at one of those levers at a time. And I'm going to show you in the next slide how that looks. But every scenario we're going to do a lot of scenario-based practice. You're going to get comfortable with role-playing in this course. Every scenario is going to be from your context. How do I do that? Well, we have quite a deep intake into this. In fact, it's a selective program. So you'll have to do an interview with me. You'll also have to submit an application. And in that time, what I'll be doing is drawing out challenges from your context that you've had. And then every challenge that we deal with, every case study on the program will be based on someone's on the course to make it real. We're also going to do practice with leadership trio. So you're going to get put with a group of 3 so that you can do some peer coaching. I'm going to give you tools to be able to peer coach through some of your challenges as we go through the course. You're going to be implementing everything we learn. That means once I've taught you a method about having meetings and we've practiced it in our 2-hour session together, you're going to implement that very week. And when you implement it, as soon as you've finished implementing it, you're going to pick up your phone, you're going to send me a quick voice message because you're time poor in school, right? But you're going to send me a quick voice message. You're going to say, Shane, I just had this meeting. I tried out this framework and this is what went really well. Or Shane, I just tried out this framework and it just fell apart. This is what happened. I'll be able to then give you immediate feedback based on that. And we're doing that because live feedback reflecting straight away is one of your best chances of improving. That's going to give you that feedback and refinement cycle so we keep moving through the course. Each week, if we were to look in a bit detail, so for example, that first week on values, we're going to learn a framework on how we would bring out our values. You're then going to go into a deep practice session for most of the time where you're going to be practicing using the techniques I've shown you. And then for the last part, we're going to then plan how do we implement it in the coming week? How do we implement what we've just learned? And we set up that trio coaching so that we've got a support structure and you can all hold each other to account throughout the week. That's how each week works. And in between the sessions, you go away, as I mentioned, you implement, you get feedback from me, you practice with your trio partners, and you track your progress. I'm giving you tools to track your progress and build a leadership program, leadership playbook as you go. Those growth partners are just groups of 3. It's peer coaching and you're practicing those conversations. The great thing about these leadership trios is you get accountability. This is based on a lot of feedback I got when people talked about what are the biggest strengths of leadership programs they've been on. A lot of people said this, the most valuable part was having peers who understood my challenges. This is super, super important. So when we're going through the program, we're going to be doing less theory and more practice. I want to really be crystal clear and hammer this home about what this program involves. You will actually be having difficult conversations with your team members in this program. You're going to be redesigning your team meetings using frameworks. You're going to be giving real feedback to your staff using the models you learn on this program. It's not just going to be role play. You're going to actually be doing these things in practice. 80% of your time is going to be spent doing in this program, not just learning about doing. This is what we often get wrong in leadership programs. I've even led those programs where you learn about the doing so much, you have so little time to actually do it, and then nothing happens. And that's why people doing this approach can see immediate results and feel that cognitive overwhelm just reduce slightly. Who is this program for? Well, if you're a leader, you could be a department head, you might be assistant head. Great, it's great for you. You might be a team leader, whatever team you have, no problem. You might be a middle leader who's just been enrolled for a couple of years. Great, you've got ambition. You might be a senior leader wanting to refine your approach. We've already got leaders signed up to this, and I can tell you already diverse from principal level to middle leader. Important on this program is that we're not filtering by your role or your level. We're filtering by, do you think that you're going to be able to learn on those 10 levers? And are you committed to a program as intensive as this? And are you humble enough to reflect with a group of other passionate people? What I'm not going to guarantee you is you're going to get everyone with the same role on this course. What I can guarantee you is it's going to be full of people who are passionately wanting to develop their leadership. The question I ask every participant who comes onto this course is, are you just wanting this certificate for a promotion? Got to be honest with that. If you are, no problem. I can recommend you a few courses that can be good like that. But if you are actually wanting to grow and you're wanting to see transformative change in your practice, this is the program for you. It's not just about the certificate, it's about actually growing as a leader. I also wanted to mention if you're a school, you're an organization, you might want to put a few people on this program. That's also cool. You might have a leadership development initiative. So get in touch. You can do that. There's group discounts available. But again, each person will have to apply in their own right to make sure that we've got people who are really wanting to be there. That's the key. Here's a bit of some of the investment that you can make coming on this program. So the core program is 2,400 British pounds. If you wanted to come onto this program, that's the complete program, everything in. If you want to get it booked in before the end of June, I've had an early bird price running for the whole of this month. There's 25% off. You won't get that price again after this point. That's why we've already had a few signed up on that price. And the early bird that ends at the end of this month. There's also group discounts available. So get in touch with that. I'm going to give you a link to the curriculum as well here so you can have a little read through in your own time. There's also 2 exciting optional add-ons that I just want to raise for you. The first is a face-to-face workshop that I'm doing just for people on this program. That is November 28th to 29th this year in Shanghai, where I'm based. So if you're in this area and can get to Shanghai, it's just an extra £500 to come for 2 days with me, and we're going to look specifically about leading as a coach. I'm passionate about coaching. It's my way of being and leading. And I think there's a lot that we can learn through the coaching approach. So if you're interested in also developing that coaching approach to leadership and want to meet some of your fellow participants on the course, then come along. Come and meet the other participants. You'll get some hands-on practice with coaching frameworks, and we'll do some really good work together. There's also an option to get some one-to-one coaching throughout the program. So I'm going to be talking with you anyway through text, through those voice messages, and through those group sessions every week. But if you want a bit of one-to-one coaching throughout the program, then we can do that, some personal coaching sessions, and that's £600 for the 4 sessions if you're up for that. Now, I just want to remind you something I mentioned earlier, that this is a selective program. Not everyone's going to be accepted. There's a written application. You'll do a short video submission as well, and you'll have a chat with me. Some people have already gone through that. This is just to make sure that we're getting people who are committed to growth, implementation. I want to make sure that you're open to feedback and being challenged and ready to practice with real scenarios. It's not going to be helpful to you if you're not ready for those things, because this program is not going to be designed for you. If we kind of find together that is exactly the right thing, then this is good, because being like-minded matters much, much more than your leadership level on this program. So this is the complete program overview. So you've got 10 live sessions with me. You'll get all the frameworks that I give you with implementation tools. You're going to be doing peer coaching that's guided in trios. You'll get access to all the resources I share and the session recordings. You're going to be developing a personal leadership playbook as we go through. I'll be giving you a template for that. Your certification, you will be confident, is evidence-based. You will see where all the research has come from throughout the program, so you can be really secure on that. You're also going to have ongoing community access. So once you've completed the program, you'll still have access to that community, which will include future cohorts of that community as well. And in 6 months after the program, I'm going to host a free session just for you to get back together with your cohort, to follow up, to see what's working, how things are going, and to have a follow-up coaching session, group coaching session with me. So have a little reflect now, and feel free, if you like, to share in the chat if you're tuning in live. What's your biggest leadership challenge right now? And I'm really in particular thinking about the one thing that, if you could master it, would transform your confidence, may transform your team's performance, or maybe even your organization's culture. Have a little think. Either think to yourself or pop it in the chat. Thank you, Marina. I can see give powerful feedback, live your values. Really, really, really useful. And no worries, I can see you have to shoot off. That's no problem at all. Thanks for tuning in. I can see some other people on Riverside. A little reflect. Okay, as we come to the end of this session, and we've got a bit of time for Q&A, but before we do, I just want to refocus you on why this intensive program works when so much leadership development actually fails. Well, there's a few things. One, we do spaced practice. 10 weeks, implement, refine, implement, refine, implement, refine. It's not condensed into a big 4-day workshop, which some leadership programs are, where you've got so much come at you at once that you struggle to implement. Equally, it's not spaced out so far, like we've got programs that are over 18 months, for example, that's spaced out so far that sometimes you forget you're even on a program, and then you go, oh, right, got to get back into the program mode. It seems to be that sweet spot. You've also got peer learning. You're not doing this alone. Real application. So no hypothetical case studies in this program. Everything is real based on you. It's research-based. I'm not sharing any frameworks with you that aren't proven. And it's a selective cohort. Everyone in this cohort will be committed to growth. And most leadership development fails because it lacks sustained practice. And this program is your sustained practice. That's what it's all about. So if you are ready, then I would love you to jump on a call with me. That is the easiest next step. Jump on a quick 20-minute call with me. And on that call, it's totally free, by the way, just a call. We're going to assess your development needs. We're going to look if you're ready for this intensity. We can have an open conversation about that. I can answer any questions. You can also secure early bird pricing. So if you book it today, get that conversation at least booked in by June 30th, and we can lock in that price for you. And there's no pressure on this call. And I mean that honestly, just clarity on whether this is the right thing for you. I only want people on this call who are really fully committed. That's really important to respect everyone else who's on the program. And to book the call, it's very simple. Just scan the QR code or go to that link, zcal.co/leaning/Shane/intensive, book your call, and just remember that early bird pricing is just until the end of this month. Don't wait. These calls fill up quickly. So please do scan that. Go to that link if you. There's also a curriculum. Feel free to go and download the curriculum if you just want to read a little bit more about some of the things I've talked you through. You can find that intensive.educationleaders.co, or again using the QR code here. Okay, and now I would love to open it up to questions. So if you've got any questions about this program, please feel free to type them in the chat now, and I will certainly do my best to answer them. I have a few questions that have already come in. So one person asked, what's the time commitment for this course? Great question. So in this program, you're going to have to commit about 5 to 6 hours a week, and there's kind of no real getting around that. Now, much of that time, you're going to have the 2 hours on the program, you're going to have the peer coaching, but much of that time is actually going to be in your setting, in your school, trying out those principles and feeding back to me. So a lot of that time will be actually embedded within the job that you're doing. You'll be glad to know there's no essays or assignments like that as part of this program. This is not that kind of program. It's a program that is all based on practical movement. So no essays, nothing like that. I'm just making sure I keep my eye so I don't miss any of these questions. Technical requirements. So we'll be hosting all of these online and using apps you should be familiar with. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Someone's asked if there's any payment plan options. Great question. The answer is yes, there is, even if you take this early bird pricing. So once you are accepted onto the program, then I will send you a link. And we can do this multiple ways. We can send an invoice, and you can do that. Or if you pay online, there's a payment program, especially if you're paying individually. I know this can help, where you can split the payment into 4 payments. So for example, if you got that early bird pricing of £1,800, you could pay over 4 months at 450 quid a month, which can make it a little bit easier on the pocket, and that's automated. So there's payment options no matter what option you choose, even payment plan for the face-to-face in Shanghai and the online coaching. So yes, I want to make sure this is accessible as possible to you. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this session. I hope that was useful outline for you. I would love you to get in touch. My email address is on there. You can also find my Blue Sky, LinkedIn. Even if you're not interested in this program, I'd just love to be connected with you. I'm really active online, and also love it when I receive an email with a leader who's just sharing one of their challenges. So please do. The QR code on the screen is to book in a call with me. So if you want to book in a chat just to go and explore some of your needs, please soon.